Hello, galera, Heavy Culture um pouco atrasado hoje, a gente fez uma confusão com o fuso horário aí, mas felizmente estamos aqui com Craig Locicero. Eu não sei como a gente fala, né? Pergunta para ele aí, por favor. Christian, seja bem-vindo, Christian.
Valeu. George was asking how to say your last name correctly.
Well,
it's Italian, right?
It's Italian. And if you're in Italy, it would be Locicero. But here in America, it's been Locicero, and then it has different meanings.
Yes.
Chichi bean farmer, I think, is the real, like the goes back all the way to the Sicilian Chichi bean farmer.
Yeah, it's like I thought it was like Italian because it's similar, very like the way that
it is.
Pronounce.
I am half Italian and half Mohawk, American,
Great.
Native American.
Yes.
And look how white I am.
Yeah. Só pra I can just say to the people here in Portuguese a little bit, né? Ele tava falando que ele é metade italiano e metade moicano, né? Tipo, dá pra ver pela pele dele o quão branco ele é, né? E também que a pronúncia do sobrenome dele é tanto faz, é americano e italiano, então, tipo, né? O que achar melhor. Pode falar, Jorge?
Legal, então, a gente tá aqui com o Craig, né? Famoso aí pelos trabalhos com Forbidden. A gente vai falar sobre as novas bandas que ele tá tocando, enfim. Dá uma atualizada aí no como tá a dica do Craig, né? Bem-vindo, Christian. E vamos lá, vamos aproveitar o tempo, né? Eu já vou lascar uma pergunta, Christian, sobre que hoje, curiosamente, faz 27 anos que o álbum Distortion foi lançado. Eu queria que ele fizesse uma volta no tempo aí, lembrar dessa época, hoje, 27 anos do álbum Distortion Forbidden, 94, se não falha a memória. Como ele lembra dessa fase da banda aí, por favor?
Okay. Well, so George is saying that today is the 27th anniversary of Distortion. I was listening to it,
Yeah,
so George wants you to go back in time and say, how is it in your career, like the importance of the album? Like, what do you remember when you recorded Distortion?
And keep this long story short, right? Because you have to translate it. Okay.
Sure.
Well, I can tell you it was what we called the dark days of metal. Very few metal bands that were successful. Forbidden was one of many that was doing very, very well, and we were about to break and become a bigger band in 1991 and 92. And I think we lost them, but we're still here. But we were about to become a bigger band, and when everything shifted, we went through a few years of searching for a record label that would touch us, because the only big bands are like Sepultura and Pantera and maybe Slayer and then White Zombie, and like it was a very dark time. But
yes,
we found our way through that and wrote an extremely I think complex and articulate and angry answer to all of it. And I put a lot of my feelings in there, and lyrically a lot of the things I was going through personally, frustration and everything like that. But once the album came out, it got great reviews. It did pretty well in Europe, and then in the United States it came out a few months later. And we toured with Testament, we toured with Malevolent Creation, and but nobody was, even Testament was struggling, so we were just another band that was trying to fight our way through that period of time.
Great. I'm gonna give the Portuguese short version. Ok, falando do aniversário do Distortion aí, lembrando da época que ele foi gravado, aquela época era uma época bem ruim em termos de metal, né? Tipo, quem tava fazendo bastante sucesso era o Pantera, o Sepultura, e as bandas estavam tendo momentos ruins para conseguir lançar alguma coisa. Então eles fizeram o Distortion, né? Ele botou bastante sentimento dele, nas letras, na banda, assim, sobre o que estavam passando, né? E eles conseguiram fazer um excelente álbum, assim, e realmente conseguiu salvar um pouco a banda. Mas naquela época ali até o Testament já estava passando mal das pernas, como a gente diz aqui no Brasil, né? Então, tipo, não era uma época muito legal, assim. Well, we're going to speak about 3 different things mainly, okay? Forbidden, but obviously I'm going to talk about your new bands,
Okay.
and obviously about Dress the Dead, which I found very interesting. It's very different. I really enjoy Kayla singing. It's like
she's
pretty
great.
different.
She's really, really great.
Yeah, I got like, like
Yeah.
I didn't expect her voice to be like that. So, speaking in Portuguese a little bit, falando pro pessoal aqui, tá? A gente vai estar falando com o Craig sobre as 3 bandas dele, tá? O Forbidden, Inevitável, e as outras 2 bandas dele, principalmente o Dress the Dead, que é a banda nova e tem como atração principal aí a Kayla, que é uma excelente vocalista, né? Tipo, acrescenta bastante a banda. Eu achei muito bom o vocal dela. E eu vou perguntar uma questão a respeito do Dress the Dead, né? E algumas peculiaridades do Dress the Dead agora para o Craig. Okay, talking a little bit about Dress the Dead and the way that you formed the band before Kayla, entering the band. Yeah, like before she entered the band, and then after that, the singer left, and then you found her. Can you tell a little bit about this experience of finding her?
Well, first, I mean, as you may or may not know, our original singer was Peter Dolving from The Haunted, and Peter is somebody I really look up to as an artist. He's very complex as a person. He has personal things that happened to him before he ever joined the band and stuff that was going on with The Haunted. But it was exciting. And we recorded some stuff with Peter and it was fucking amazing. And that song you were just listening to before I came on, Knives Out, was one of those. That he, as a Swedish guy, wrote about the American situation that was just about to go off when Donald Trump was he wasn't even elected yet. You know, it was about to happen, and we were both talking about it. So I thought it was brilliant. So anyway, he leaves very unexpectedly. It took us about 8 months to find anybody who was close to Peter, and we didn't find them. She found us. She was told about the band from a mutual friend, and a couple months later, she reached out to me. And when she did, it was a text saying, "Hi, I'm Kayla Dixon from Witch Mountain. I really like your band a lot, and I heard there might be a chance to audition. Can I please have an audition?" And I said, "Fuck yeah!" But the other guy, yeah, I'll just leave it at that, and then I'll tell you the rest. But go ahead and translate that.
Yeah. Ok, falando um pouco aqui do Dress the Dead, né? Quando eles formaram o Dress the Dead, o vocalista era o Peter do The Haunted, né? Eles gravaram algumas coisas que não foram oficiais, assim, né? Principalmente não chegou a acontecer, mas uma das músicas que ele estava falando aí que eu estava escutando é bem interessante. Então, ele saiu da banda e eles meio que demoraram bastante para conseguir um vocalista. Então, tipo, um amigo que eles tinham em comum, assim, da Kayla, botou ela em contato e ela pediu para fazer uma audição com ele, né? Tipo, eu queria ver se tem alguma chance, coisa e tal. E, né, ela apareceu para cantar e foi fantástico, assim. Então, tipo, ela realmente acrescenta bastante, assim, e deu bastante peso para a banda, assim. Talking about Kayla a little bit, I found one thing interesting. When she sings aggressively, her voice reminds me a little bit Chuck from Testament.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, a little
the
bit.
preacher.
She could do, here's the thing. She's younger than us, she's only 25 years old. And when she joined the band, she was 22. So that right there, and we're all obviously, in our 30s and 40s, and I'm in my early 50s now. And I was a kid when I started in Forbidden. When we did our first album, I was 18 and turned 19 in the studio. So
Yeah.
I'm familiar with not knowing it all and coming into a situation where you're around people that are very talented, that know more than you, but you're just, you can keep up. And she can more than keep up. Okay, this
Yeah.
girl is an incredible talent. The only one that I've ever been around with as much vocal talent is Russ. And
Yeah.
that's literally, and I know a lot of great singers. Kayla's probably, by the time it's all said and done, if she does the right things and figures out how to say the right things as she goes along, she'll be up there with some of the greats over this course of the next 10, 20 years. But that's a long
Great.
course of things. That's but she's figuring it out, and she's highly intelligent, and it's a real blessing to have somebody that on that much fire. So she can do anything with her voice, but she only
Yes.
does what she wants to do, and I don't want to make her. I'm not the one to tell you should sing like this, you should do that. She's young, she feels a certain way, and then we
Yeah.
as older musicians need to kind of accept that it has to be authentic from her.
Yes.
And so there's like some of that guttural stuff made us a little nervous at first. We're like, I don't know, I don't know about that. And then,
Yeah.
but then
Yeah. It's
you
like,
listen, and you're like, she's fucking convincing, and that's
yes.
coming from her heart. So she's a very, very talented girl, and we're very glad to have her
Yeah.
as our front person.
Yeah, I also have to add that she has a very beautiful voice when she is singing 1969. It's
Gorgeous,
like
yes.
like amazing, like as like the Beauty and the Beast at the same time. So it's like her
And
voice
that's
is
her
fucking
personality.
good. Yeah, so like
That's her
that's great.
personality. Yeah,
That's great. I'm gonna give the people the information here.
yeah. Go ahead.
Ok, ok. So, falando da Kyla, né? Ela tem esse estilo mais agressivo, assim, né? Então, tipo, ela foi uma adição perfeita para a banda, assim. Ela, até falando assim com ele sobre um pouquinho que ela me lembra a agressividade do Chuck lá no começo, né? E ele também salienta bastante, sim, ela é bem nova, ela tem 26 anos e quando ele já tá com quase com 50. Então, o que acontece assim, né? Tipo, ela tem ainda um longo caminho pela frente. Eles eram bem novos quando gravaram o primeiro Forbidden, né? 18 para 19 anos. Então, tipo, tem essa diferença, assim. Eles têm toda uma história nas costas e ela ainda vai ter toda uma história nas costas, né? Então, tipo, isso faz bastante diferença. Tipo, e que nem eu e ele comentamos ali, ela é uma mistura de Bela e a Fera no vocal, né? Tipo, ela tem uma agressividade excelente e uma voz potente e bem bonita. There's a question from a guy from the audience here, okay, Rafael Pereira. Do you consider the Forbidden Injustice in the Bay Area? Like, you should have more fame, related to the other bands and things like that?
Well,
more recognized?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I one thing that keeps me young, because I'm younger than some of my peers because I'm not jaded. You understand?
Yeah.
I don't get jaded.
Yeah.
And I've also managed to really keep an edge musically and reach out and do different things that are all interesting with very talented people. I've worked with a lot of different people. I worked with Rick Rubin years back, did an album, A Man Made God record. I did a lot of different things after Forbidden that really extended my reach, as a musician. But with Forbidden, I feel like, just like a lot of bands, the timing was just a little off. And our window was closed when everything happened with, the 90s. And then it reopened again for a little bit. But with that opening, you have to really work at it like very, very hard. And not everybody in the band could go on tour for extended times. Russ couldn't do it. Matt couldn't do it. There was Tim Calvert became a pilot. When we came back and did our reunion shows, we wanted to originally have the Twisted into Form lineup, and Paul was going to do it. But as soon as Testament heard Paul was going to do it, they got him to do Formation of Damnation. They immediately snagged him up. And so, all right. So we got Gene to do it. Gene Hoglan sat in for us. And then we got Mark Hernandez, who plays with me in Dress the Dead, to come in as a permanent member of Forbidden. So there's always been something. That's just want to end it, and you can tell your listeners. there's always been something that held it back, but it wasn't necessarily our doing. It was just the fact that it just didn't work out, and I'm okay with it. I think everyone in the band has a different version of that, but the reality is that I knew it just wasn't all going to work out at some point, and you know, I'm very happy with the albums, you know, and let's leave it at that.
Ok. Bom, respondendo a pergunta do Rafael aí, né, ele considera que sim e não. Acontece que naquela época ali, né, tinha uma janela e era muita coisa acontecendo ao mesmo tempo também. Então, tipo, ele também comenta que ele tá mais novo, mais revigorado que os membros da banda, justamente porque ele não ficou tão para baixo assim que nem a galera, né? Então, tipo, tinha sempre alguma coisa atrasando ali, né? Não importa o que acontecesse. Quando eles fizeram um reunion também, né? O batera saiu, foi pro Testament, aí veio o Gene Hoglan para tocar, então sempre tinha alguma coisa para atrapalhar um pouquinho, assim. Mas ele não considera que a banda seja total desmerecida, assim, mas também podia ter um reconhecimento melhor, assim. Mas ele lidar bem com isso, isso ajuda bastante a ele entender ele como músico, assim.
Tem outra pergunta bacana da audiência, Christian, sobre o Twisted into Form.
Okay, let me see. There is another question from the audience here about Twisted into Form. Okay, how did you create that riff? The bass
for the main
the Twisted into Form. Yeah, the main riff. Like that was amazing. That was like.
I can remember that, and I can't always tell you exactly how I do everything, but that was one of my riffs, and that was actually I started playing it I had a digital delay, and then I was in the room with Bo staff, and this is before Glenn was out of the band. We had Tim Calvert visiting us because we were about to go to Europe, and we were grooming Tim to be the replacement if Glenn gave us any issues in Europe, which ultimately it happened, you know. So, but we kind of knew that Tim was going to be the guy. But I remember playing that riff, and then Paul just popped into that beat and just kind of and then just like, oh, that's killer. And then I just went right into that. I just started making stuff as I went along. And then Glenn opened the door. It was like and I go, what are you doing? Oh, shit, nothing. You know, it's like kids being kids, but we had to cover our ass, you know, at the time.
Yes.
But we were all kids. I wasn't even, at that time, I was 20. No, I was 20.
21?
I was 20 years old. Yeah. So, so, you know, whatever. I mean, but yeah, that riff actually happened organically by jamming, you know, just by jamming.
Okay.
So go ahead and answer.
Ok, thank you. Respondendo a pergunta do Sadistic Messiah aí, ele lembra bem como eles criaram o riff, né? Porque foi de uma forma bem orgânica, assim. Eu tô traduzindo bem sintetizado, tá, galera? Porque a informação é bem grande. Mas ele nasceu, né? Junto com ele e o Paul brincando, né, fazendo uma jamzinha ali. E o Paul começou a tocar bateria, ele começou a tocar, eles olharam assim, isso aí é legal. E aí começaram a puxar. Daí quando eu abri, assim, o que vocês estão fazendo aí? Nada, só brincando. Então, tipo, é um riff que ele foi criado de uma maneira bem orgânica mesmo. Eles estavam só ali, tocando, e o riff veio com força mesmo, assim. Jay, another question?
Queria perguntar como é que foi a experiência dele tocando com Def na turnê do individual, Two Patterns.
Okay. George is asking about your experience playing with Chuck Schuldiner in the Death to All tour and the visual thought patterns.
Yeah, not Death to All, but yeah, Death. Death to All came later, but yes.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I was friends with Chuck, going back to Ruthie's Inn, being kids, handing around flyers when he lived in the Bay Area for a short amount of time. And I hadn't met him in years, and I had the Death records because we were both on Combat, and they just released Leprosy, and then we did Ultimate Revenge too, and we met for the first time in about 5 or 4 years or so. We're like, dude, we were really happy to see each other, and that's where I met Gene too, with Dark Angel. So, you know, we hit it off. Fast forward a few years when they're having problems after they had recorded individual thought patterns. Steve DiGiorgio asked me if I would he called me on a real telephone, you know, because we didn't have internet. And
Yeah.
and I was like, "What are you doing calling me?" You know. So he asked me, or he said that Chuck wants me to do this tour. You know, can you come out to Florida to rehearse? And I said, there's no fucking way. I'm making a Forbidden demo. We were doing the Distortion demo that got us signed. I'm like, I don't have time to leave at all. And then the next day he
Yes.
calls me back and said, Chuck will come see you. We'll go practice in Oakland. I'm like, okay. I got no excuse. And so when I had no excuse, I didn't have any time to learn the songs. So they came here and I literally finished recording the Forbidden demo the day before they arrived. I showed up at practice and Chuck showed me one riff at a time. And I realized really quickly that each riff was circulated 4 times. And I learned the riff real fast. Then I can just play that and then move on to the next one, play that, move on to the next one. And it was a lot easier to play than Forbidden stuff, like considerably. So I was thankful for that. And then we just hit it off. It was great. He was wonderful. He was so super friendly. And according to the guys in the band to this day, that was probably the best Death ever got along on a tour because I didn't cause any problems. And Chuck, he had a brain disease, as we know. He had cancer, and I think a lot of things with people and fights he had with people were due to him just not being able to process a lot of information sometimes, and he got hostile. But with me, there's no problems. We got along great, and Gene and I turned out to be the best of friends ever since.
Great. Bom, ele fala ali que ele e o Chuck são amigos desde a época de infância, assim, né? Eles se conheceram na Bay Area, tocando flyers, coisa e tal, e também fizeram parte da mesma gravadora. Ele tinha o Leprosy do Death no, né, álbum, e também depois ele conheceu o Jim, do Dark Angel também, né? E ele estava gravando ainda na época a demo do Distortion, quando o Steve DiGiorgio pegou e ligou para ele e disse que o Chuck queria falar com ele para fazer a turnê, né? Que ele não pôde fazer, mas ele foi lá e, né, eu tô gravando a demo. E aí ele disse, ok. Daí ligou de novo e disse, o Chuck tá indo te ver. Ele disse, agora não tem como fugir. E aí ele passou para ele o riff, tocou umas 3, 4 vezes, achou bem mais fácil do que tocar os riffs do Forbidden, que eram mais complexos, assim, e foi bem legal a experiência, né? Ele e o Jimmy o Hoagland ficaram bastante amigos também. Ele não teve problema com o Chuck naquela época, justamente porque eles eram amigos desde pequenos, porque o que acontece, o Chuck ele já estava ficando meio agressivo com as pessoas, porque ele já estava com um certo... o caso do câncer no cérebro estava deixando ele agressivo, assim, mas com o Craig ele nunca teve nenhum problema, então eles sempre se deram muito bem, e ele e o Hoagland ficaram grandes amigos depois disso também, então, né, continuaram ainda tocando junto, coisa e tal.
A audiência ali, a audiência fala, é interessante o pessoal ali se manifestando, não é uma pergunta, só para...
It's like, there's like people here just saying that Twisted Into Form is like one of the best plays ever. It's like, I don't know if you agree with that too, but I think so, in my opinion. Also, I like the other albums too, but I think what makes Twisted Into Form what it is the main riff. It's right. Like the first time I listened to the song Twisted Into Form, I got like, the hell is that? It's like I got shocked. I think everybody had
this. Qual foi a influência deles pro Twisted Into Form?
What influenced you to create Twisted Into Form?
The album or the song?
The album, everything. Like,
well, I'll tell you. The thing about Forbidden in the early years is that we really went into it not knowing much other than, because we started the band. Rob Flynn was with me on guitar, and he was a couple of years ahead of me, older and playing more. He was a better guitar player than I was. At that point, he was really the songwriting leader, because I was just like at 15 years old. I was like, okay, man, I was keeping up. But once Glenn got in the band, we stepped up a little bit. But it's still I took over as the main songwriter at that point. But it still wasn't. It just wasn't clicking on all cylinders because all the influences just didn't. It did to a lot of people. They love Forbidden Evil because the solos are ripping and it's just bombastic. It's killer, But it wasn't very mature yet. And then once we got Tim Calvert in the band and we came home from our touring. After we brought him out with Exodus, we just toured the United States with them. and then we toured the United States with Sacred Reich. Once we got home to write, we spent a lot of time in my garage, and we clicked, and we really, really joined our minds together on the way to like lock the guitars to be a team. You know, there was a real. He was a big Queensryche fan, the old stuff, as was I. You know, the Judas Priest and the Maiden and stuff like that. Like Glenn wasn't really into that. He was more into the single guitar player, single guitar hero stuff. So that he was just more interested in being that guy, where Tim was really interested in being a, you know, like a duo, a guitar duo. So I think that's your biggest difference. Is that it made me better as a songwriter, and then Tim got better as a rhythm guitar player very fast. He actually liked thrash metal, you know. He was a fan of it, as well as Queensryche and all the other classic stuff, you know, AC/DC. So it's just, we had chemistry, and Paul Bostaff was really instrumental in helping write that record too. You know, he arranged. He didn't write anything. Like, he never picked up a guitar, but he'd always be like, "Try this, try that, try this." So it was a team effort.
Great. Bom, falando ali do Twisted Into Form, ele aconteceu um pouco depois do Forbidden Evil, né, que eles ainda consideravam um álbum um pouco meio imaturo ainda, porque eles eram novos, né, e quando eles voltaram da turnê, eles se sentaram e começaram a pensar o que fazer, assim, né? Então, tipo, tinha uma diferença também de idade que fazia com que ele não fosse tão bom na guitarra quanto o outro guitarrista, que eu acabei de esquecer o nome, Jorge, me salva. Então, tipo, o que aconteceu foi que eles, quando eles começaram a ensaiar para fazer o Twisted Into Form, a banda fechou mais como um time mesmo, né? Resumindo, assim, né? E isso acabou funcionando muito bem mesmo, tanto que o Twisted Into Form saiu com toda essa união da banda, assim. Também pelo fato de que o Paul não toca guitarra, não toca nada, mas ele era o cara que sabia opinar bem, tá, faz isso assim, faz aquilo. Então isso fez com que a banda ficasse mais unida mesmo, assim. Então, tipo, deixou o Forbidden mais sólido do que na época do Forbidden Evil, assim. Okay.
Exactly.
There is another question from the audience about the Forbidden Evil, like the process, the creation, the process of creation of Forbidden Evil. How was it?
Well, a lot of it was in high school. A lot of it was in high school for Rob, and for a couple songs, like, and a lot, you know, and myself, you know, because when we started writing, first songs that we wrote for that were Rob and myself doing Forbidden Evil.
Yes.
Doing he started writing Chalice of Blood, and then we kind of put that together. But I mean, Rob but it was very slow. We had another drummer that wasn't very fast. He couldn't do fast double bass, and Paul Bostaff was his cousin. So once we had Paul in the band, it started to gradually speed up. And then when Rob quit to join Violence, it got faster and faster. And by the time we recorded on the album, it was easily twice as fast as it ever was before. Yeah, not Great. You know, not because of him, but because of the, you know, Paul and just us getting more stamina. But a lot of that album was written by all of us, or myself and him in high school. And then Glenn, my senior year, when Glenn joined, I finished writing certain things, and I started writing Follow Me, and Glenn and I wrote Off the Edge and Feel No Pain, and of course Two Eyes of Glass, which was Glenn had a middle section, and then Paul and I wrote everything on the outside, and you know, and all the rest of the song. But Glenn had that big instrumental section that centers his solo, which is so great, you know. So I think there's a combination. That's what I'm saying. Great things happened, but it was not mature. It was, we lucked into it, you know, like, fuck it, you know, you just show up, and then all of a sudden it just comes together. And but it wasn't like we were like, there's a plan and we've got to execute this plan. You know, we didn't do that.
Like
we were just
formula.
Kids. Yeah, we were kids, man. We were fuck ups, you know. We were drinking and doing things we shouldn't have done, you know.
Great. Bom, o processo de criação do Forbidden Evil ali ainda foi na época de escola ainda, né? Ele começou a escrever junto com o Glenn, né? O que seria. Depois, e na época eles ainda tinham um outro baterista ainda, né? Que acontece que não era tão rápido assim quanto o Paul. E, para variar, era primo do Paul. Então ele indicou o Paul para bateria. Ele não se considerava tão maduro ainda, né, naquela época, né? Então o álbum, ele é um álbum orgânico, é um álbum natural, mas eles ainda eram bastante novos, assim, e aquela coisa de ficar bebendo e compondo. Então, tipo, ele é um álbum bem centrado, não tão maduro quanto os outros, que começou ali quando eles começaram a fechar, mas ele é um álbum que ele fecha bem também com essa ideia assim deles estarem juntos assim.
O Michael perguntou do Green.
Qual pergunta?
Interessante. Qual a visão dele do Green? Se ele...
what is your vision about the Green album?
Well, we were very angry. At that point, we were very ready to kick a hole into everybody and everything. And especially myself and Steve Jacobs, our drummer, who was with me in Distortion as well. And we were writing a lot together. And we wrote some of it on tour with Testament, a little bit out there when we were out with Testament. Couple songs like Face Down Heroes started to come together and stuff like that. But I think it was just our answer to the industry changing, and we decided, I call it for lack of a better term, I call it our caveman album, because we just took out clubs and just started beating shit, and it felt good. Looking back at it now, I could see why some people are like, well, it's not the same complex thing, but it really was hard. There's a lot of hard songs to play on that album, but it was just a different approach. It was more angry. It was more tribal. There's a lot of tribal. I mean, our influences were obviously out there. Obviously we were big fans of the best, and that being at that time, Sepultura and Pantera were really big bands. So we were already playing with those guys or friends with those guys, and of course it's going to creep into that kind of grooving crept into our influences, but it wasn't really premeditated. It was just our answer to everything that was going on, and I'm very proud of it. And the last thing I'll say is it was a few years ahead of its time, really, because
I would say that. I would say that
other
it
bands,
was
bigger bands. I just want to say this to finish your whole thing about that, because bigger bands came out and said how big of an influence Green specifically was. Bands like Slipknot and Lamb of God and Shadows Fall, and a lot of these bands Green was a big influence on their first couple of albums. And I find this out many years later, in some cases over 10 years later. I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know. So there you go.
Bom, falando do Green, ele disse que esse álbum eles estavam putos da vida com tudo, já queriam chutar tudo, estavam com raiva. Foi um álbum feito com raiva mesmo. Eles estavam na turnê com o Testament ainda. E o que acontece é que a indústria estava mudando na época, eles queriam fazer um álbum mais primitivo. Apesar dele ser mais primitivo, ele não é um álbum que é mais simples que os outros, assim, ele tem as suas pegadas, assim, e é um álbum que a galera não entendeu muito no começo, assim, né, mas ele era um álbum agressivo, né, bem primata, assim, uma coisa bem mais primordial, que depois acabou servindo, né, o pessoal também não entendeu muito na época, mas ele acabou servindo aí de base para bandas, como ele falou, Lamb of God, o Slipknot, né, eles beberam dessa fonte, ele também só foi descobrir disso anos depois, né. I would say even Sepultura drank a little bit of it.
We probably were on the same, page a little bit of where the world was at. Andre is besides being a friend of mine, I find him to be one of the greatest guitar players in our genre. His right hand and his left hand both work together, and not all of us can do that.
It's difficult. Or you have a good pick or have a good.
He's great. I'm a huge fan of Andreas as a person and a player.
Tava falando um pouquinho do Sepultura, ele também pegou um pouquinho de influência do Green, ele também fala que ele é bastante amigo do Andrés, assim, gosta bastante dele, principalmente que o Andrés tem uma característica marcante que é tocar bem com as duas mãos, né, dentro do thrash metal, ou tu é bom na palhetada, ou tu é bom não fazer as notas. Então o Andrés é bom com as duas. E eles são bastante amigos também, então, tipo, isso ajuda bastante, assim. E, obviamente, sim, o Sepultura teve um pouquinho de influência dele. Eu quero fazer uma pergunta I want to ask you a question about the boneless ones. Like, how did you decide to create this crossover thing?
Well, I
Because
had
thrash
not.
metal is crossover, is always together, you know.
Yeah,
But
dude, it's fucking great. I had nothing to do with the creation of it. It was the Boneless Ones was a band I saw in the '80s that was like playing with all the biggest punk bands. You name it, MDC, Circle Jerks, like I could go on, just all of them, right? They
yeah,
toured with everyone, they played with everybody. They were a skate crossover, but they definitely had thrash metal influences, like more so than a lot of the other counterparts. And the guitar player Luke was amazing, and I saw them play their last show in Berkeley, in front of a crowd in 1986, and the police showed up. Everybody scattered, and they all ran, and then they broke up for 30 something
yes,
years. And Chris Contos was in the band when I saw them, from Machine Head Chris, and he played with me before in Spiral Arms as well. Um, but Chris approached me about year ago, a little less than a year ago, and said, "Hey, our guitar player isn't really cutting it because he can't really do the thrash like we want it to be done, and we're not being able to write music." And it was it was a drag for him. And he's like, "Can you come meet the guys?" And I met the guys, and I loved the guys. And I already loved Chris, and I was like, "Yeah, let's give it a shot," And then I came in with music the next time. I had 2 songs like pretty much ready to go, and then everything just clicked. And it's been pretty easy because it's not trying to reinvent the wheel or invent new ways to slice bread. It's just super
yeah,
fun thrash, rock, skate, punk, metal music.
ye-
And Max is a great singer who writes, great lyricist most of all. He writes great lyrics that are very, very tongue in cheek and fun. And Troy is the heart and soul of a lot of what we have going as a band, and the bass player.
yes,
And he hadn't played bass in 30 years. He sounds awesome. Hey man, me and Contos together are fire. We really are. We're fire. But the whole band has a chemistry that I don't think any of us expected. So we just did an
yeah.
entire record. It's being mixed right now. And as a matter of fact, I just saw I got a text from the guy Matt Weiniger is mixing it, and Matt's the guy who produced all the Primus stuff when he was a kid, and he's won a
Wow.
couple Grammys in the last 4 years for his work with the Fantastic Negrado. And he's a good friend of mine, but I've never worked with him, and these mixes sound incredible. So it's all positive on that front. It's a great outlet for all of us, and they have a big following already. They already
Great.
have, like, in the skate world, they're one of the biggest skate rock bands of all time. So which is a whole different world to me. I rode bikes. I was BMX. So was Chris. But so that's it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
how it happened.
Ok. So, o Boneless Ones, né, é uma banda que já era antiga antes, ele era fã desde lá de 86, assim. O que acontece é que a banda, na época, não gravou nada, assim, tipo, pegou e parou. Então, o Chris, do Machine Head, tava tocando com a banda, convidou ele pra tocar, e tipo, vamos fazer acontecer coisa e tal. E ele é fissurado. A banda nunca visou criar nada novo, assim, reinventar a roda, que nem ele falou, e simplesmente o que eles fizeram? Eles queriam tocar o que era aquilo ali, um punk com rock and roll e thrash metal, e foi o que saiu, né? Perfeito, diga-se de passagem. Então, the
Tem
album is
uma
great.
pergunta.
Pode
Tem uma
perguntar.
pergunta. Qual a melhor dupla de guitarristas? Rob Flynn, Phil Demmel ou Rick Ronald e Gary Holt?
Okay, so in your opinion, what is, like George mentioned the names, the best guitar duo in your opinion?
Those are my only choices.
Jorge, repete aí as escolhas.
Rob Flynn or duo or Rick Ronald and Gary Holt?
There's no one better than Rick and Gary. I mean, everyone's good. Rob, I'll tell you, out of all those guys, Rob, I can't. They're all friends of mine, but I do have specific feelings. Like, as far as a guitar duo, Nobody was better than Rick and Gary. Nobody was better. And I just watched Exodus the other night with Lee, with Rick right next to me, right here, right in front of me, watching them play, and then there were none and everything like that. And it was a very strange feeling. You know, it's like I told Rick, I'm like, hey man, nothing for nothing. You know, my best memory of Exodus was watching you in 1984 play at the Kabuki Theater, you know, with you and Gary. He's all, you know, thanks, man. But I mean, they were fucking great. I'm still good friends with them. I talk to Gary often about the 49ers. We don't talk about music. We talk about our football team. But yeah, and then, you know, and Rob is amazing, and so is Phil. They were a very good duo, but no one's better than the other guys. But Rob is a guitar player. I'll tell you, out of all those guys, he's the most underrated as a guitarist because he sings. But that guy fucking shreds. Rob is absolutely amazing guitarist, and I don't think he gets enough credibility for that. He doesn't get enough credit.
Yeah. Ok. So, na opinião dele aí, o melhor duo de guitarras é o Rick e o Gary. Não tem. Ele falou no último show que ele viu, né? Tipo, não é a mesma coisa. Até falou que ele e o Rick são amigos, né? Tipo, né? Não é a mesma coisa assim. Eles costumam falar sempre, mas mais é de futebol, assim, porque eles são bastante amigos, assim. Mas o favorito dele é esse aí. There's a question of the audience here. Like Rafael Pereira is asking, which do you consider better, Slayer or Metallica?
I don't. I think they're both. Well, I mean, you know, I've got a very different, and neither one has written, in my opinion, an album that's incredibly relevant since the '80s. You know, they're
I
good.
agree. I agree.
But no, well, I will say that Slayer's Seasons in the Abyss, which was 1990, was incredibly relevant, and Metallica's Black Album was as well. You know, but I mean, you know, they when a band becomes a legend, they're afforded liberties, and both bands rested on their laurels a lot, and I still deeply respect them. But once Slayer lost Jeff, there went the songwriting, in my opinion. And you know, Metallica's Metallica, man. They're the biggest band in the world. So you know, no diss on them at all. I kind of liked a couple of the things off their last couple albums, quite a bit. But you know, it's just my opinion. It's just like, yeah, it's cool. You know.
Yeah. Ok, então na opinião dele, né, tipo, é difícil comparar as duas bandas, que são duas bandas bem diferentes, assim, o Metallica pra ele é a maior banda, né, mas nem o Metallica nem o Slayer tem feito algo relevante desde o final da década de 80, né, o Metallica fez o álbum Preto, que ele gosta bastante, ele gosta de algumas coisas novas do Metallica também, mas não é assim, né, tipo, não é tão bom assim, né. Eu vou perguntar mais uma questão para ele a respeito do Dress the Dead. You were going to sign with Nuclear Blast, right? Dress the Dead.
Well, yeah, that was we were just starting to like get to that point of like, okay, let's talk about what we're going to do, and that's when Peter. That's why one of the reasons why Peter left is because he was very nervous about committing to touring and all of his health problems that he had, physical, back, neck, hip. You know, he got, and other things are going on in his life as well. You know, but yeah. So since then, I haven't even tried to get signed. I personally, you know, this upcoming year, I'm willing to start talking to people seriously about it. But up until then, with COVID and the amount that anyone could offer, it was not really worth it. You know, but we are with Blood Blast, which is Nuclear Blast Digital, and we've had a lot of downloads and streams. We've done pretty well in that area, but really for me, it's like being signed means nothing anymore if it's not to a situation that's helpful for a long term and they're very committed to you. I just don't I don't see the allure. If we could become a big YouTube band, it'd be better for the band, to be honest with you. You know, but we just haven't even tried that yet. We're just kind of working our way into 2022 with a bunch of new songs. And going to drop them as a whole record next year that's all new, and I think that's going to be the thing that's going to propel what our next move is, because we have We're doing Dynamo next year. We're doing other festivals in Europe.
Great.
We've been put off for 2 years. We're doing, and well, that's all I'll say about that. But then I got something else to add. But go ahead.
Ok. Só falando ali do contrato que eles vão assinar agora com a Nuclear Blast, né? O Peter deixou a banda justamente porque ele já estava meio com medo e também estava com problemas de saúde, dor nas costas, pescoço, assim, então não ia conseguir. Temia que não ia conseguir. Isso fez com que o Dress Dead ficasse parado, né? Uns 2 anos, e ele também não se importa muito assim com essa questão de ter um contrato assinado com uma gravadora. A banda está indo bem nas plataformas digitais, né? Estão conseguindo bastante atenção, assim, mas o que aconteceu foi que também veio o Covid, isso atrapalhou bastante, né? Mas agora eles estão já se programando para shows grandes, tipo de Dynamo, né? Vai dar o Dynamo Open Air, então tem coisas, um álbum inteiro já escrito para o ano que vem, né? Então, tipo, vão ter bastante coisa aí. Still talk. Fala, Jorge.
Audience, eu acho que daí a gente está chegando.
Ok.
Audience.
There is a question from the audience here. It's like Sadistic Massa says he saw some videos that talking about Russ being sober again. Is there any possibility of recording a new album or playing together?
Well, I learned a long time ago to never say never because it always blows up in your face, right? So I don't. I
Yeah.
would say I would never say never, but I wouldn't say that it's probable because I think Russ's lifestyle has changed to sobriety being the most important thing in his life. And for a lot of years, he suffered in Forbidden, and Forbidden suffered, as well because he wasn't able to take care of himself and give his very best every night. He was a real alcoholic, and
Yes.
the fact that he's sober and worked so hard to get here, I personally don't put anything above that. That's the most important thing in his life, and whatever he wants to do, even if he said, "Hey, let's do this," I would go, "Are you sure? Can you handle that? Is it a good idea?" Because I care
Yeah.
about Russ as a person. He's my brother. He's my friend. I would never do Forbidden without him. And people ask, I'm looking, is Russ okay? I see these questions up here. Yes, Russ is okay, but he is insulating himself in a life that's better for him.
Yes, ok. Bom, falando do Russ, né, ele tá melhor, né, ele tá, mas o Craig fala que nunca vai dizer não, porque ele sabe que as coisas, né, mudam, então, mas tipo, o Russ mudou bastante o estilo de vida dele, ele tava sofrendo bastante no Forbidden, né, tava bem alcoólatra mesmo, o Forbidden tava sofrendo bastante com isso também, mas ele tá melhor, assim, tá indo bem, só que é aquela questão, né, tipo, o Craig não sabe se ele vai conseguir segurar ou não, então tem um pouquinho daquela coisa que o estilo de vida do Russ mudou drasticamente. Ele tá bem, então é melhor que ele fique bem. Eles são bastante amigos ainda, né? Mas ele não descarta, né? Não. Mas talvez só não aconteça porque o estilo de vida do Russ mudou bastante, assim. E talvez ele não queira voltar nos palcos porque, né? Vai ter toda aquela, tu consegue? Vai conseguir fazer isso? Vai, né? Então, tipo, isso interfere bastante, assim.
Quer fazer a última, Cristiano?
Okay. We have a last question. Okay.
Yeah, I just so you know, hold on, just so you know, I've got at least 10 more minutes. I got 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, great. Sounds like
you can ask
we can talk
questions from the folks asking. I'm like pointing out. I got 2 screens open, so I'm looking over here. But
yeah. So, still talking about the new band and things like that. One thing that is important, you said like next year we're gonna have lots of concerts and things like that. How do you see these now with like this COVID thing and the return of the concerts? How do you feel about it? Like performing?
Well, it feels great, to see people back together again. There's no doubt about it, and I think our world is going to constantly have some sort of new. COVID is going to be what it's going to be, and it's going to evolve. That's a whole different subject, but I do know that it's very real. Other people, like, it's not real. Like, I don't even see. I have friends who almost died from it. Like, I have other friends who died from it, and it's a fucked up thing to have. So the vaccination parts of where people get very touchy. They get very touchy about it because some people feel it's fucking with their freedom of choice and rights, but they don't understand that they're the ones that are at risk.
Yeah, they're putting the others in risk.
Well, we're not. If you're vaccinated, you're not really at that much risk. You can still get sick, but you won't fucking
you won't die. Yeah, that's the point.
So that's the point. Yeah, people think that it's like if you have a shot, you're just protected for life, and you have a force field around you.
No,
it's like, no, vaccinations don't work like that. Vaccinations work as a herd. Herd immunity through vaccination is something that's been around for over 100 years. But I'm not here to get into that. I just say that when you go to concerts now, like we had a concert the other night, and we had the big Bay Area strikes thing, and everyone had to show a vaccination card or proof of vaccination. Now, I know for a fact not everybody who walked into that concert was vaccinated. And I know for a fact that not everybody who was up on that stage is vaccinated. But ultimately, you got to make a choice if you're going to be a part of this solution, or you're going to constantly worry that someone's trying to kill you, alternatively through, vaccination, this whole population control thing. There's a million other ways to kill us. We're killing ourselves anyway. That's not the way.
Yeah.
I'm a conspiracy guy. I go from way back, and I'm telling you, this is not the way they're trying to kill us.
It would be very easy, actually, not so complex.
We would already be dying off because of it. We would already. So just get vaccinated, or you're going to miss out on a lot of things in life. And I mean, you want polio? Then you should have never been vaccinated. You could have had polio. It just goes on and on.
Great. Nós estávamos falando aqui sobre as esperanças, né, para os próximos shows, né? Agora nos Estados Unidos o pessoal tocou num show lá, tava todo mundo com os cartões de vacina, né? Agora só pode entrar com eles, né? E isso faz uma diferença bastante. Ele também concorda que as pessoas têm que entender que não é que tu vai tomar vacina, tu não vai pegar um vírus, tu vai pegar, mas tu não vai morrer, né? Essa é a grande diferença, que as pessoas têm que ter essa consciência, assim, de que a vacina tá aí para fazer com que tu fique mais forte. Não vai te matar. Ainda tem muita gente que acredita, né? Ele já perdeu bastante amigos, alguns não perderam também, então tem toda essa coisa, assim, de quem perdeu, não perdeu, e quem vê vacina como uma forma de ser morto, e também tem essa coisa de obrigação de tomar vacina, faz com que os caras achem que querem estar matando as pessoas. Então é um problema, assim, que na opinião dele, tipo, a gente já tá morrendo faz tempo, e é fácil de matar o cara se quisesse. Another question I have is about the new album, or the Dress the Dead album. What can people expect from it? Something more aggressive than the songs that you release, or something on the same line?
Actually, no, they're more aggressive, and there's going to be more beauty. I feel like that's our formula. One thing I always wanted to do, the reason, and having Caleb paves the road for what my vision was to begin with, and that is to be able to do anything we want to do. And what we've definitely done in COVID times is we got together a lot. At first with masks, and then everyone's vaccinated, but we got together once, twice a week for many of the 52 weeks, and then the other weeks, so we wrote an entire record and then some, and we recorded most of it already musically, and we're going to go back in and do the vocals and finish up stuff. But it's extreme. It has more thrash. There's elements of, even death metal and black metal, and rock. It's as Pink Floyd as it is fucking, I don't know, Gojira. It's like I'm a big fan of Mastodon as well. And I love how they stretched out and do whatever they want to do. And people respect that, and they don't sound like anyone else. So I like bands like that, and that's where I want to end up, in that kind of category of, like, let them do whatever they want to do. They're going to be different, and that's what I see Dress to Dead as being. Whereas I have the Boneless Ones, we have our new album coming out. it's not going to be trying to, like I told you earlier, we're not reinventing anything. We're just writing great thrash, punk, rock. You know, it's really fun. It's a good time for me. It really is.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm fulfilled musically in that way.
Great. Ok, so talking about the new album to the audience here, ele fala que o novo álbum, né, vai ser bem mais agressivo, né, vai ter elementos de death metal, elementos de thrash metal, vai ter bem bastante dessa coisa da Bela e a Fera, como eu e ele falamos, assim. A Kayla, definitivamente ela fez o que vai ser, ela ditou o passo da banda, assim. Então, diferente, assim, né, do Boneless Ones, que é um thrash punk, que é mais, não tem nada para inventar, assim. O Dress the Dead já tá mais à frente, assim. Ele gosta bastante do Gojira, né? Então, tipo, ele quer esse tipo de coisa, trazer elementos tipo Pink Floyd, fazer uma coisa que não seja, né, copiando algo, assim. Então, tipo, uma coisa mais natural mesmo. Então, a gente pode esperar aí algo bem agressivo, né? Bem pesado, com influências de rock também, com influências de Pink Floyd, e claro, né, com esses elementos que o Gojira usa também. Jorge, tu vai querer encerrar?
Vamos agradecer, cara. Agradece demais ele. A gente é muito fã, o Brasil é muito fã do trabalho dele aí. E obrigado, né? Muito bom.
Okay, so we are finishing here. Okay, so I would like to thank you very much for your attention. Okay, it was great to talk to you. Also, name of the audience in Brazil of like Forbidden fans, and I hope the guys listen to your band. I excuse myself because I didn't know the band. I was listening to band 2 days now because I discovered recently, you know, like actually I'm not into new bands because I'm trying to get some of old stuff as crazy because I had a huge vinyl collection, sold them.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. No, I'm similar in that respect. And there's so many new bands. And I just want to answer one question I saw up here. Somebody asked, and this is kind of like goes right into your thing. Somebody asked, do you think thrash metal will ever be the future? What do you think? Do you think that there will ever have classics like Rain and Blood or Bonded by Blood? And the real answer to that is it would have to be something new. There, you can't.
Yes.
You can't. I mean, things are cyclical, meaning they go in cycles. But you'll never have that first time around ever again. You only have the first time around once. So whatever's new that can pull from those influences and be unique has a chance to stand out, and hopefully that's where I see Dress the Dead being a unique band, and hopefully will stand out, you know. But I mean, people decide that, you know, you could be great and no one ever hears you. There already could be those albums that exist that we haven't heard yet because there's a lot going on, man. There's a lot out there.
I'm gonna give the Portuguese version here fast as I can. Ok, falando da pergunta ali do Milton, né, sobre se vai ter alguma banda nova de thrash metal que busque ali o Raining Blood ou Bonded by Blood, ele fala que pode ser que sim, mas vai ter que ser algo totalmente novo, né, porque é um ciclo, né, as coisas se repetem. Ele espera que ele consiga fazer algo que chame bastante atenção com o Dress the Dead, né, tipo, algo novo, que chame atenção e que as pessoas gostem, mas quem diz isso são as pessoas, é o povo, não é a gente que está compondo ali, né? Então, tipo, ele realmente espera isso. Então, eu vou encerrar aqui com ele, speaking Portuguese.
Muito bom.
Okay, so I really wish the best for Dress the Dead. Okay, I really expect to listen to this new album to get really interested. As I told you before, Kayla, really surprised me because of her voice and also the guitars, which sometimes reminded me Forbidden, but I don't know why.
Yeah, of course. You know, it's in the hands, man.
Yeah, it's like I don't know why. It's like
there is. You know, it's funny though. I just one last thing. In Dress the Dead, it's more about the songs. And there's not, I mean, I play solos from time to time, but not as much. And in the bonus one, there's like fucking 30 solos on the record, you know, like I do solos all the time. So it kind of just depends on, I don't like to jam them in there, but for that kind of music, it seems like it's, you know, it fits better, like old school kind of solo stuff. So it's, I could do it all, you know.
Yes, great. Nós estava falando ali do Dress the Dead ter uma certa similaridade com algumas coisas do Forbidden, né? Que eu não sabia porquê, né? Mas ele disse, né? Tipo, é natural, né? Sai. É diferente do The Boneless Ones, que ele faz um monte de solo, né? Mas, né? Encerrando então pra galera aqui. Craig, once more, thank you very much for your patience, for your attention, okay? And it's like it was great to talk to you. Okay, it was great knowing the band too, the Dress the Dead band. It was great too. It's like I really expect something good for the band, and I really expect you can succeed with the band as you succeeded with Forbidden in the beginning of Forbidden. Well, Destruction is also great too.
Time will tell, man. Success to me is just writing great music with great friends and seeing what happens. That's why I'm still doing it.
Great. And keep on doing that. You do it greatly.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to go pick up my son from high school.
Okay. Thank you. And bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you, Craig.
Have a good night.
Yeah, everybody.
Galera, brigadão. Heavy Culture. Dezembro chegando. Christian, obrigado. Abraço pela audiência aí, pessoal. See you in hell.
See you in hell, my friend. There's a cat roving there.